First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to come and to seeing this this webinar. It is our first webinar, and in many respects, it's a trial and error for us. But we've had some comments coming through, and my administrator is on the computer here, taking your comments in and letting me know as we go. So you might get some interruptions. But if you do have a question that he can answer, he'll type it to you. If it's something you'd like me to refer to, which is either on the chart behind me, I'm very happy to do that. I expect some of you out there are well aware of what I'm doing, and some may not even have seen what I'm doing up here. Some people may have even seen or heard about numerology, but I better give you a little bit of background first before I launch into this. This is my 37th year in this particular field, and it's not something that I got into and said, that's it, you know, I've read a book and I'm now just going to do it and repeat it. I had to know how it worked. And it was literally only last year that I found the connection within the brain that assisted me in getting the knowledge together so that I could say, I now understand how it works. How can somebody's name make their life what it is? Where is it coming from? I've had to go and research the hieroglyphs of the Egyptians' tombs and the pyramids. I've had to go back to biblical script. I've had to go back to lots of different religions to find out where it all came from. And it zeroes back around about 35,000 years ago is when I can find the formal records that indicate where this came from. So this is way before Pythagoras came in. Although he's known as the master of mathematics and what he did for people, it's not necessarily what he did with it, it's what was recorded after the fact. But you've got to go back further to find out where it came from. Now, although it's come from a long way back, it doesn't necessarily mean to say that they understood how it worked, it just worked. No different than gravity works. It wasn't invented, gravity that is, when Isaac Newton sat under a tree and an apple fell down and he went, oh look, that's gravity, I've discovered it. He recognized something. So when somebody, and after all these years, says to me one day, many years ago, you should get into numbers, and I answered with, I hate maths, with a passion, and I did. And they said, no, numerology, and I said, what's that? Well, as time's gone by, it's nothing to do with numbers, it's to do with a language. My background as an electrician, and I'm still a practicing electrician to some degree, my background's taught me a lot about frequencies and vibrations and current and voltage and other aspects, which have to do with what Pythagoras was talking about in the construction of triangles and maths and degrees. And people who study astrology, they're working with those same angles because those angles move where the planets are at a particular time when you're born. And strangely enough, you are implanted or impressed or date stamped when you come into this world on your own, leaving the mother's womb. You're naked on the surface of the earth, and you literally are being bombarded with energy, no more shielded by your mother. The womb is an amazing place where this factory of building people comes from. But the bigger or the more amazing aspect is when you go down to the DNA structures. Now, we've heard of DNA, we've seen it in the movies with the sci-fis and the things going on, but people don't really understand what it is. And the DNA of a single human cell would fill about 1 million pages. One DNA, 1 million pages in about 6 fonts. All this code A, C, T, G, G, A, T, C, G, A, T. It's just so much information that says you're independent, you're an individual, you're just a unique person. So having studied all of that, the frequencies, the vibration, the chemistry of the human body, numerology is not about numbers. Everything is about vibration and frequency. And anywhere in the world at any point in time, you're being bombarded with frequencies from radio stations, television stations, other people's cell phones, all sorts of rays and gamma rays and everything coming around you. And you're just sitting in the middle of it. It's passing right through you. So what is it? It's frequency. And we can't see the high end, we can't see the low end, but we see this little piece in the middle that you can see me here wearing a blue shirt and talking to you today because of frequency. So what if I said that your name dictated your life? What if I said that when you were born, and some of you mothers out there will have an understanding that when baby was born, you might have had a list of girls' names and a list of boys' names once upon a time, and the baby comes out and you say, scrap that lot, it's Roger. And it just feels like a Roger. It doesn't look like a Roger, but it certainly, it doesn't look like a Roger, does it? So I'll be talking about this in a little bit, but I'm saying what it looks like when you first have it certainly doesn't grow up that way. So what is it about a name that makes a person what they are? So in a nutshell, if you could imagine that you've got a brain which is just hungry for knowledge, you've got all of these sensory organs all over your body feeding information in, and you're going to a core part of you that has no idea what it is. It just understands feeling. And if a baby doesn't feel good, it'll cry. If a baby feels happy, it'll chuckle. If a baby has any comforting, changing, feeding, pain, we often say more than anything else, its first name. And we call it by its first name over and over and over again. So the baby associates emotion and their name with the same thing. It's like, this is me. Every time I hear this word, or the sound, it's something to do with me. And sound is a vibration. Parts of your brain absorb that. And literally, they become solid after a while. So all information coming up through into your brain mass always goes through the solid mass, which has become a filter, like a sponge. It's not changing. So what goes through that is you. It goes up into your head, you have an idea, and you pass it back down, and you might think this doesn't work, or it does work, or it feels good, or it doesn't feel good. It's all because of that middle bit. If you ever wanted to learn this stuff, that's what I'm here for. I have to unload all this knowledge I've been gathering for such a long time now to show people that your name dictates who you are. Your name will dictate to you when things happen. Your birthday is an anchor point, basically, of the angles of what you're involved in, from gravitational, magnetic fields that affect your body. And you've got a date stamp. And so that date stamp tells me where you are at any given time. And just by purely knowing your birthday and your birth month, I can tell you what's happening in your life right now, what happened in the past, and what will happen in the future with uncanny accuracy. And I can say that quite boldly because I've done well over 200,000 case studies. So going to looking at what we're talking about tonight, here we have, and I'm going to show you what a chart looks like. This is a section of something. Yeah. By the way, if you can't see me properly, you need these things, put them on. This is David Robert Jones, also known as David Bowie. Now, this is a graphic that I created through my software sons, who helped me make a program that can calculate things so that I don't make mistakes. I'm a stickler for getting things accurate. And because of this chart here, it's nothing more than something you might have seen. If you've seen the TV, or the movie, I should say, The Matrix, with all the green screens coming down, for those of you who have seen that, that's what this looks like, and I read from that. So here we have David Robert Jones, and I've converted every letter of his name into its numerical position in the alphabet. Why? Well, A is the first one, and B is the second one, and C is the third one. So here we have the letter D is now being transposed into the number 4 because it's the 4th letter. But so what? But the D has a shape, and every letter has a shape because it comes from an image or a picture in the hieroglyphs, which literally said it was a storyboard about something. And this little letter A here, which is another interesting point, I'm going to put another A up just between here for the moment. This is what the letter A originally looked like. And if you could see that as being the head of an ox, like a cow's head, and it has a yoke across its shoulder. And they used to strap a cart or a plough behind the ox, and it would plough a field. And that's what that's represented as a symbol. And so there's the ox, right there. Now, as the ox image came through time, the Phoenicians, and then through the Romans, it changed to that shape. And finally, it ended up like that. Now, if you can imagine that an ox would do a lot more work than a man could do in a very short period of time, representing then an image that says, if the A is there, it means a rapid change in the conditions of somebody. And here's a statement I'm going to make. Every male man called David on the planet Earth, every one of them, it's without exception, when they reach the age of 27, they all have a major change in their life. Now, it just so happens I have a David here sitting next to me who's working my computer at the moment. And I asked him before, what was your change at 27, David? And what did you say?
My oldest daughter was, my first daughter was born when I was 27 years old. And I've got to tell you, that was one hell of a change in my life.
Now, some of you may have heard of Leighton Smith on News Talk ZB. My claim to fame there is that Sean Connery, you know, James Bond, he was on the radio station one day for 30 minutes and he was aired on New Zealand all over. Well, I was on for 1 hour and 10 one day, and the audience couldn't keep themselves away from writing in about the stuff we were talking about. But when you start to look at the name David, and I said to him that every David changes their name when they're 27, and this would also account for David Bowie, he would have had a major change in his life. And although Leighton Smith questioned that, he opened that question up to the audience, and every David that phoned in, every one of them said that they had a major change in their life at the age 27. Now, how is that so? It has to be so if there's something in the name. And there is. And without me going into great detail here to tell you why that is, just know that the addition of a person's name comes to an age, and it comes to a component of vibration that makes them what they are. So David Robert Jones, David sums as a number to 4, but it doesn't mean 4. It represents a person who is sensitive and a hands-on person. That's what it kind of means. Robert, one of the most successful names on the planet. If your name is Robert, you've got an ability to make a lot of money and have a very nice lifestyle, but it comes down to your attitude. So Robert, all the letters in the name Robert come to a sum total of 6. Jones is the same. It comes to a sum total of 9. When you add up David, Robert, and Jones, we have 4 and 6, which come to 10, and 9 is 19. We reduce this 19 to a single digit 1 by adding the 1 and the 9 together to get 10, and then we add the 1 and the 0 of that 10 to get 1. And so that's what that 1 represents. That particular 1 there represents the individual, the person who likes to work on their own, do their own thing. They're innovative. They've got this idea and they just get up and do it. And they're unique because 1 stands alone. Was David Bowie like that? Yeah, very much. Was he different from most other people? Yeah, very much. But there's a lot of 1 people out there who have similar traits as this. Another aspect of the codes that we've got here are the vowels in the name David. The A and the I. Now I've separated this 1 and 9 here with underlining them and taken them up to the top, because 1 plus 9 equals 10, and 1 and 0 reduces to 1, which is why there's a 1 up there. So by doing the same with the rest of the name and taking just the vowels out, I've got this number 1 and 2 and 2 as the sum of each of those names. Did you get a bit lost? Join my classes. When I add 1 and 2 together and to this 2 here, I get a total of 5. So the vowels in his name add to 5. It's interesting. I created this word called metrology. It's like numerology is like numberology without the letter B. So numerology, the study of numbers. So I thought, why aren't we studying letters the same way? So I took the letter E out of letterology and got letrology. And I thought this is so perfect for what I was doing as a name that I went and trademarked it. So I've created this new word called letrology. And letrology is the study of the letters pulled together into names and words, and they fit in such an uncanny way. If I get a chance, when I finish with this, I might take it off and just show you what letrology does, and it'll start to surprise you, which is why I got so hungry for this knowledge. Yes.
Got a
question? Stop there.
Yeah,
yes. We have a question. Who's it from?
It is from Peter Carlini.
Peter Carlini.
And he says, do the numbers themselves represent a story? For example, number 8, infinity, etc. A story like, you know, you mentioned that the A had a meaning or a story.
Okay, yes. Every letter of the alphabet has a story, A through to Z, or Z, as our American friends would state. Doesn't matter, it's still the same shaped letter. Every letter has a shape. The shape is not just born of nothing. The B came from a heron. The C was representing the moon. The D represents knowledge in part, half, with a strong backbone and a soft front. When you look at the letter D, you've got a strong back, a soft front, which means I'm strong at one end, but I'm soft in the other, and I keep things to myself. So every letter has a story and it has an origin. So when you start to look at each letter, it has a storyboard. So here is a person who keeps a lot to themselves, has action very quickly with when they get an idea of something. Then they have amazing ideas with the letter V. The V is like a plow in the field, and it's carving a road for other people to follow from such a great idea. And then it tries to get things done very, very quickly on their own. They don't trust anybody else doing it. So all Davids are people who like to be hands-on, they're mechanical, they're technical, they're very sensitive, and they like loyalty. All Davids are like that. And all Davids at age 27 have a change in their life. Look at this. If David and those numbers add to 22, and 2 plus 2 equals 4, that's the final digit. But David adds to 22. What happens after David runs out of David? Does it go into Robert? No. It repeats itself. So here's 22. Plus 4 is 26. Plus 1 is 27. And there's the A. Every David, age 27, has a major change in their living conditions of their life. Going back to where we were before, this number here that we got from his whole name represented his career, his model of operating, what he did, what his personality type was that he would attract things to him. Which brings us back to the attraction laws. Some of you may have heard of. We've heard of The Secret. We've heard of the attraction laws. Lots of people getting on the bandwagon, but not many people really understand what the attraction laws are, why they work, and why they don't work for some people, and when the timing for them is for that. If we get a chance today, this is a neuron cell, and your brain's full of them, and I'll discuss this because on this sheet of this little panel I've got here that I made up, it's the secret of the attraction laws, and I know how they work. So once we finish with David's full name, and we get this one and says he likes to be his own boss, David Jones or David Bowie, which Bowie is the same as Jones when you do all the sums on it. It's the same numbers. It comes to 9, and the vowels in Bowie add to 2 just the same. So when we look at these two words, David and Bowie, we get 4 plus 9 adds up to 13, which is why I put this one in the box here. 13, 4. So not only was he an individual, he's also, as other people saw him, a bit of an active person. He's like got up and did things. Because number 1 is me, I'm myself, and number 3 says to have fun. So you've got this guy out there who's enjoying doing what he wants to do to have fun, to make him feel good. So here's this guy who's got this ability in his name to say, I'm capable of being a musician. I'm capable of being a sports person. I want to have fun. I want to get out there. Numerology is not about numbers. Metrology is about the explanation of what a person's name will do for them and how it can make you work your life better once you understand it. But there was no book for you when you came out. No one said, here's a book of your life and go and enjoy. There's no instruction manual. Oh, I've been privileged to make them. Now I can make them for people, giving you a total rundown of your life and even a forecast of what's going on, talking about the past or the future. Let's go on here to his birthday. David was born on the 8th of January, 1947. Now, some people, it's a bit surprising when you hit our age, my age, some kids don't know who David Bowie was, or the Beatles, or any of the other greats back then that we go, what, you don't know? Now, these guys, you got to understand, way back in time, and I remember my mum saying to me when she heard the Beatles for the first time, she'd go, ooh, ooh, turn it down, they're noisy. Well, that's what they did, but they're pretty cool and they're lame or tame now compared to what some of the other artists did with music. So a person who's born on the 8th day of the month. Now, I appreciate Americanized changing it around, 8th day of January, not August the 1st. That's the way we do it here, and there's a specific reason why I do it this way. But take my word for it for now. The number 8 stands for a key word which means authority, strength, power. Someone who says, I'll do this. And he had an attitude that says, stuff you, I'll do this. My way. So he had the strength up here and a personality to say, I'm going to do it my way. To go further down here and find out that his whole birthday, 8th of January 1947, 8 and 1 adds to 9. 1947 sums to 3 if you add all the numbers together and keep reducing until you find a single digit. So 9 and 3 equals 12. 1 and 2 equals 3. So his whole birthday adds up to 3. And I've got there, it's a skill or a talent number. Now, the number 3 represents, as a key word, expressive. Expressive in any way. A person who writes poetry might be expressive. A singer, an opera singer. Any person who expresses themselves orally is a 3 type person. What about a sports person? Do they express themselves? Yep. They're out on the field running around. This is such an active number that if I was to put the word army here and go 1, 9, 4, 7, which is what the letters represent, 1 and 9 is 10, 14 and 7 equals 21, 2 and 1 equals 3. So people who go into the army have that number. How do I know? Well, I've assessed a lot of them. So people who've got a particular skill base is based on their birth date. What does your birth date represent for you? When you find that out, you think, wow. So maybe you're doing the wrong thing in life. Maybe you haven't given yourself the opportunity to present yourself to the world the way that the world would work with you better, and you become more successful, more happy, get out of a rut, and get into something that you really want to be or do. So when we look at his whole name, David Robert Jones adds to 1. 8th of January, 1947 adds to 3. If we take that number 1 and that number 3, which is literally the total of both of his makeup, 1 and 3 equals 4. UG. UG represents the ultimate goal in a person's life. Where are you going? Because when you're born, the arch of life, he gets this little soul here. Somebody ringing through. He gets this little soul here and he draws his bow back and he fires it off and the arrow goes through life and you get through there and eventually it comes and it lands on the ground. Boom. That's your ultimate goal. So where are you going in life? Because if you knew that back here, you can short circuit the arch and go straight there, earn more, be more comfortable, have less lessons. You don't need to learn. Some people say, oh, you've got to learn the lessons. It's fate. You've got to do the stuff. And I'm going to say crap to that. I don't believe that at all. There are times in life that I can prove and has been documented where I stepped out of the way of danger when I could have died had I stayed there. Pre-knowing this, I was flying to Christchurch once, I do a lot of work in Christchurch, New Zealand, and I would go down there frequently. One weekend, I had a second weekend involved from it, so I had 2 weekends in a row to be in Christchurch. So I thought I'd stay there. When I looked at my own charts, I thought, no, it doesn't look, in fact, it looks really dangerous. So I looked at my partner's charts, I looked at Christchurch's charts, and no, I'm not staying there. So I bought 4 e-tickets, in, out, in, out. I flew in on a Friday, I flew out on Monday. Christchurch collapsed in the buildings that I was in on the Tuesday. I know a lot of people who died down there. I can't go around scaremongering people and say, get out, get out, get out. It just doesn't happen. So I just know what to look after for me, and you can look after yourself for you as well. So I know where I'm going in life. He was going for this particular area here. And in fact, 19 plus 3 is 21. It comes to, again, 22, sorry. This guy had an amazing way of looking at life. He had an open mind, seeing things that nobody else could see, based on these codes that I do representations of on this board here. Again, I don't expect you to understand this, but what I've got here is why he died. Why he died early, in my view. Why he died early. This line here represents his age. So I've got a short piece from 61, 2, 3, 4, up to here where he is, or was this year, 69, just turned 69, and I put a line through here to show what his chart would have looked like had he carried on. The next line down, this one I call ESS, it's short for the word essence. Imagine there's a cake cooking in the oven and you can smell it. It's a chocolate cake. You can smell it because of the essence coming off the odor of the cake cooking. Or it comes out and you can see that it's something full of raisins and it's a Christmas cake or a fruit cake of some sort. I don't particularly like fruit cake, so I have a problem with that. But if you start to look at it, the essence means what is the flavor of this particular element. So each of these numbers here represents a flavor or how something smells, feels, acts, or performs. And this is you. So when I'm looking at a person's age across here, and in David Bowie's particular chart, I'm taking slices of his life. Now, it's interesting to note, this is something I thought, how does it work in slices? How does your name, how does your birth date know what's going to happen when? Comes back to these things. Just to give you an example.
A little bit higher.
How's that going? A bit higher there? Oh, that way. Look, up here. Ah,
there it is.
There it is. Now, up here, these are called, I'll look over the top, I'll look to the side, how's that? Okay. These are called synaptic, these are the dendrites. Information comes into a neuron cell through these little arms or feelers from outputs of other cells.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sorry, that's
Good
a
workout for you.
big workout for you. This is very heavy. And so the information comes in through here, goes into the cell says yes or no to it, and it fires it down this track and out the bottom. These things are, to some degree, are like toilet rolls. They're wraps that wrap around this blue nerve. And what they do is they have an electrical charge or quality to them. And every time a signal goes down through here, they pulse and squeeze, like a sausage. And the signal goes down there at 640 miles per hour. Not slow, very, very quickly. And it goes stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, all the way down to the bottom, and then fires out the bottom. But inside the amygdala, which is the part of your brain which is your emotional, your fight or flight mechanism, this is the area that I found names associated with, or sounds. When this thing is operating, it's pulsing out a fear or an excitement type vibration or frequency. And if I was to turn this on, you can kind of see a little bit of a trail of the way in which the lights are going here to say they're coming in through the dendrites and they're going to fire out the bottom. Inside the amygdala in the brain, it's now been discovered that once this thing fires with a certain sound, it may fire, not just once, but for hours, days, months, or even possibly years. And when I read that just recently, from the discoveries that science is making here, I realized that a dendrite cell inside the amygdala has the power to make a letter last as long as it does, and it tells me when something's going to happen in a person's life. This is groundbreaking. This has never been done before. I'm bringing together why people have the way that, well, things in life that they have, who they marry, what job they take up. It's all based on this. It's fascinating. So getting into subjects like this, numerology, is not, again, about numbers. It's about the sciences of life and how it all works together. It's amazing. It's fun. So I'll turn my little motorized thing off, and that's what you look like behind the scenes. A bloody mess. However, just talking about that, each of these things is attached to something that's literally a glue cell, glue. It's called a glion. And what they do is they control all the cells and hold them all together, and then pass communications to and from and say, yes, no, okay, maybe, what about this? Someone's talking to me, like an old telephone box board where people are passing information from each other. It's an amazing thing to do and understand and study, but it's fun. Well, I think it's fun anyway. Right. Let's get back to Mr. Bowie. Now, this is in the New Zealand Herald today, and it's a bit of a magazine about him. It's a little bit what he looks like, and they've got his eyes the right colours. And David had an eye damage when he was younger. He actually had his eye ripped, his pupil, and his pupil enlarged. So whenever you see pictures of his eyes, his left pupil's really quite big, and the right eye was normal. So irrespective of this, that gave his character. But it's interesting. When you look at somebody, you are biased in the way that you see them because you are seeing yourself a lot more in the mirror. When you see yourself in the mirror, you get used to what you look like, and then you judge your image against everybody else that you come across and see. Aspects of psychology come into this particular subject. Physiology comes into the subject. Names come in, birthdays come in, the colors you're wearing, the material that you're wearing, any jewelry that you may have on are all indicators of what you like on the inside being expressed to yourself on the outside. So what was David Bowie like? I mentioned that he's an individual. He liked fun. Interestingly enough, this particular number here is almost a radical number, and many people don't like the number 13. 13 represents fun, excitement, and innovation. It also means at the wrong time, you make an accident and you'll die. You'll make an accident and you'll get hurt. It doesn't mean that. It just means if you do something dumb at the wrong time, that number will be there. Over here, on this side of the board, I've got the number 11, 13, 16, and 9. I've just gone from their size, really. Nine's the ultimate number. You can't get to 9 and go any higher because add the numbers together. If you add 9 and say, well, 11's bigger than 9, we'll add the 1 and 1 together and you get 2. So it's kind of like shrinking it down, 1 to 9. 11 is a number that represents genius in a person. 13 represents fun and excitement. 16 represents love and caring and wisdom and polish. And number 9 says, holistically, I understand everything and like peace and love and mung beans. So when you look at these things and saying, well, out of control, why are they such interesting numbers? Well, unfortunately, 98% of the population are negative. 98% plus of the population are negative. So therefore, most people are negative. Why? Because no one's trained them to be positive or how to think properly. These numbers here, that relates to death. That relates to accidents that can cause death. That one there teaches lessons of pain, anguish, and horror. They can get sick and die. And in David Bowie's case, that has a lot to do with the number heart that he has heart troubles with. And 9 is finish, end. It's the end cycle before it starts again. Let's go through his numbers again. 61 going right through to 69. He was going through this essence of how he felt, and he had some challenges here, some challenges here. That's a 2, it's an 11, even his birthday, 6 plus 5 is 11. Here, another one there, not 66, but this particular number comes from his name in 3 layers like a sandwich. So don't consider it from what you see on the board, there's a lot more to it. But take my word for it, because this is how it works. And we come up here to this pattern, 9, 9, 9, 9. End, 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 end. Pressure, 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 pressure. And at this particular time, he just turned, 2 days earlier, he turned 69 years old. This one on the bottom, I'm just bypassing this for the moment, this is called his personal platform. What was he on? It's his personal year, his year. Not the calendar year, his year. So we go through his years here, and they go in cycles like waves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Starts again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So how was he feeling? 9. What was his personal year? 9. If you've ever been a coffee or a tea drinker, and you used to have sugar in your tea or your coffee, and you might have had 1 or 2 sugars. But what if somebody puts 6 or 7 or 8 teaspoons in it? It's too much, just too much. When this number and this number come together, it's too much pressure. But if you add this one and this one together, you get 18. And 1 and 8 is 9. Right now, at that particular time, this year for David Bowie was so intense and so critically, so pressurizing him, that he was now in trouble from anything else in his name. Going back, he had about 18 months. This is about 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and just now. Going back 18 odd months, when he started to have some troubles, 7 and 7, or should I put the number 16 under that? Because that's what they are before they're reduced on this chart. Let's have a look at the number 16 or 7. I'm going to write the word heart down. 8. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. E is the 5th. A is the 1st. R just happens to be the 18th letter. 1 plus 8 is 9. It's just going through a cycle, so it just does that. So I have a printer that takes over and says, I want to clean myself, so it does that.
Randomly printing something.
Messages
from beyond.
And the R, therefore, is number 9. And T happens to be the 20th letter. 2 and 0 is 2. So what we've got here is a 2 under T. Add them up. 8 and 5 is 13, 14, 23, 25. 2 and 5, 7. So the word heart equals 7. Go back 2 years from when he died. 1, 2. Stress, 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 stress. Pressure, heart pressure. Wasn't just his heart. He also had cancer forming. Cancer is a number that comes with the number 8. And these numbers are stress related. Now, I don't expect you again to understand this. I don't expect you to become a brain surgeon overnight should you take up that art. I don't expect that anybody who wants to get into veterinary science will understand everything about veterinary science. After years of working with it and studying, they might, but not straight away. It's the same thing, but I teach this in literally a few weekends, and then it's practice, practice, practice. So what we have here is on the day that David died was perfect for death for him. Was he meant to die then? No, because there's a few things that we have to note here. If you have a body that's in good function, good order, you'll probably find that you're relatively healthy and relatively fit, and that your body needs that to keep going. I've put over here the word smoke and the word lung on purpose. This is where electrology comes in, that word that I invented. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of David's chart out in the middle here and just add some stuff in here to show you how this works. But just knowing this particular pattern on his chart is indicative that he was in bad shape, bad health, and he had problems caused through he caused it himself. Smoking, drinking, drugs, that kind of thing. A lot of rock stars and superstars do. They don't have to, but it's just easy, and they get hyped up and they get stressed. Take these pills, it'll make you feel better. Smoke this, it'll make you feel better. So I'm going to erase him. Now, when a person smokes a lot, the lung is usually affected, and people say don't smoke, it'll get you cancer in the lungs. Smoke. I'll just very quickly put the letters under it for you, accept that they are correct. 1, 4, 6, 2, and 5. 1 and 4 is 5, and 6 is 11. 13 and 5 equals 18. 1 and 8 equals 9. Let's look at the word lung. Now, lung just didn't arrive. Somebody named it lung. And they named it lung because it fitted. Why? This is pen, and this is pen cap. This is blue shirt. But lung is lung. And it goes to do with what's happening inside our brain. So we've got 3 and 3 and 5 and 7. And just to say, well, how'd that work again? That's the 12th letter of the alphabet. 1 and 2 is 3. U is the 21st letter of the alphabet. 2 and 1 is 3. N is the 14th letter of the alphabet. 1 and 4 is 5. And G is 7. So add 3 and 3 together. 6 and 5 is 11, and 7 is 18, 9. So when a person smokes and it affects their lungs, because those two numbers come together, and we look at a person like David Jones, we had his birthday is always the 8th of January, that's a 9. And the 9 is the stress he was under, and some other factors of stress that he'd had in his life, including earlier heart attacks, are all showing up on his chart. Now, my group behind me, and thanks for being here, team, we're going to cover that because you've all got his full chart. And I'm going to show you some of the things in his past where he was making major mistakes that caused his demise. He did not have to die. You can avoid death. You can overcome illness if you know how to correct the symptoms that created that illness. So this is a serious subject as well as a fun one, because wouldn't it be neat to see the future? Well, I can. And I'm the first person I think who can throw it ahead and say, I can see what's going to happen in 3 years and 8 months' time for you. How about this? Because I've made so many predictions over time. I predicted when Oprah Winfrey was going to leave her Harpo Networks 3 years before she did, and published it. I predicted Eric Hertz and the 2 Degrees Company in New Zealand, which is it's a telephone company, but they're all in competition with Telecom, which is now called Spark, and other telecom companies. And speaking with him at an American Thanksgiving that I was invited to, and I warned him that his company was going to change in 4 months' time. Big change. Yeah, I'm talking nonsense. The thing was, it did change, because he and his wife flew into the ocean, and he killed them both because he was the pilot of the plane, and he died right on time, 4 months to the day when I said the company would change. I didn't know he was going to die, but after the fact, his name, his wife's name, and the company's name all lined up together, and excuse me, crap happened, and he passed away. So the company changed track. These are the things that I have made open statements to some people at gatherings and or in private. I don't discuss that, but where it's been seen by public, I put it out there. So you're looking at an area where you've got someone who smokes, they've got the numbers in their makeup that relate to that. Don't do it. You've seen people say, oh, they smoked for years, they drank for years, but they're still going at 99. Yeah, but you're not them. And they probably don't have 9s in their makeup. So they're just helping themselves live longer, but they're abusing their body nonetheless. And your body doesn't like having to fix up all that carcinogenic stuff going in. So in every respect then, a person's name dictates who they are. Your name dictates who you are, and your name therefore dictates your future, what you'll attract to you, which comes back to the attraction laws. You will attract to you what you are, not what you want. And unfortunately, people don't realize that the words we speak are literally cutting us down and not allowing us to get ahead. So we've got to start to learn how to control our words, know what we're doing in life, where we're going, how our birth date dictates the timing of things, and you can't have things at this time, but they might be right for you at this time. So you can become frustrated and say, the attraction laws don't work, affirmations don't work. Affirmations work perfectly, but if you say them wrong, they'll work wrong, perfectly. You've got to learn how to say them the right way for you. If you found this talk tonight interesting, David Bowie didn't have to die. David Bowie's wife, Iman, on her chart, exactly the same timing with the group that I've got behind me, they've all got his chart, her chart. She has a death number just the same in January and in the year that she's now living in, the whole year as well as January, right on time. But everybody here, and you guys, have probably had times in your life you've had a near miss. Well, if you've been a fraction of a second earlier or a fraction of a second later, you could have died. So those all come up as 11s and 13s in people's charts. It's not a number to be afraid of. It's one you can see ahead and then overcome. Now, I've really enjoyed talking to you guys today about David Bowie. He had music all through his name. He had entertainment through his name. He was a guy who got up there and did it, and he said, wow, look at me. And everybody went, wow, look at you. And he was fun. You wouldn't find me entertaining if I sat here and said, I'm going to talk about David Bowie's numbers, and we're going to find out why he was like he was, and what's going to happen to him next year. It doesn't happen. You've got to make it a bit more lively. Come on. So, to find out what you're doing in life, give us a call or send me an email. You can get me at sally@petervaughan.net, sally@petervaughan.net, and that'll come to me via Sally. So she's my guard dog. She looks after me in that way. So if there's fascination in this stuff here, it might look crazy, but for the first time, somebody's been bold enough to stand up and say, this is a science. It works. I've proven it to other people too long. I have software programs that I help people and businesses with. I help them with their staff. I help with problems, ADHD people and families having challenges there, overcoming challenges. It can be done. So I have to thank you guys for taking the time to come out and watch this tonight. This is not numerology. This is Peter Vaughan's technology. And as Bob Proctor once told me when I spent time with him, he said this is a process. He called it the Vaughan process. So thanks, Bob, for that. And most of you know who Bob Proctor is. But nonetheless, this is what I'm doing. It's a process of assessing who you are. Thank you for coming. I'm going to wind this up now. And if you want anything to let me know about, just let me know. We'll be happy to answer your calls and that sort of thing. And let's do some more webinars. Thanks kindly. And bye-bye for now. Okay, we done that.